folks, Astronomy Live. Tonight, I'm testing a new camera for the first time. This is the beginning of 100 Hours of Astronomy. There are a variety of events taking place around the world right now to commemorate the anniversary of the formation of the International Astronomical Union, and as a result, a variety of clubs around the world are performing community outreach right now, public viewings, public outreach. So this is my little contribution. We're going to be taking pictures of the Orion Nebula tonight, hopefully. So a while back I began developing problems with my main deep space camera. Started delivering strange noise, strange lines in the image, just cutting all the way through the image and kind of ruining the quality of the images. If you take a look at my latest video predicting the SDO eclipse season, you may notice that the images are especially noisy and this noise pattern is changing. There's these horizontal Venetian blind effect going on throughout the images. So something is definitely going wrong with that camera. I've now purchased a replacement camera which is identical to the last one. Same camera. Hopefully this one is functional. Had a little bit of an issue with the shipping on this one. Okay, it looks like we might be getting frosting. I think that's why the stars have this sort of photon torpedo look to them. So I'm going to abort the auto dark and the auto guider right now, and I'm going to change the camera temperature. In fact, it's already running at 9%, 7%. It's basically hardly running at all. Yeesh. Okay. So I'm just going to turn off temperature regulation and see what temperature it warms up to. Hopefully it cooks off whatever condensation might be forming on the CCD chamber. Yeah, I think that's what that is. This was a 5-minute exposure of the Orion Nebula. And this blurred effect that the brighter stars have is characteristic of the CCD having condensation forming on it because it's too cold. So I'm going to let it heat up. It's not ideal, but I kind of expected that. Although I didn't expect it to happen at positive temperatures, but I guess it makes sense. It came with one of these third-party aftermarket add-ons that is supposed to provide an ability to use silica packs as the desiccant. These cameras have to have all the humidity evacuated from the CCD chamber. They need to have 0% humidity around the CCD. They are actively cooled to very low temperatures normally. But to do that, you have to make sure to dehumidify the CCD chamber. Now they come with a desiccant plug that you bake in the oven to recharge it, regenerate it, and then reinstall it into the camera. Normally it's made of brass or some sort of steel, and you thread it into the camera and it sucks up the humidity, the moisture. And every 6 to 12 months, 6 months here in Florida, you have to redo that process. So that's fine for the most part, but if you are, say, at a star party for a week and halfway through suddenly you start getting this happening, if you have to bake it in an oven for 4 hours at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, you really are up the creek without a paddle if you're out in the middle of nowhere at a star party. So that's where these third-party accessories come into play. And you can use your standard silica gel packs like you would find in any common product that you might buy at the store that needs to have removal of moisture from the packaging. You'll find one of these little silica gel packs that says "Do not eat," Well, you can stuff one of those into this cylindrical chamber that that has been installed into this camera and remove the moisture that way. So it creates more waste. You just, I guess you throw the silica pack away when you're done with it, but the advantage is you can do that very easily. You don't have to wait to bake it in an oven. You can just have a pack of them and slap another one in there when it starts developing moisture. So I've gone ahead and ordered some silica packs. I actually had the same accessory for my previous camera, but I opted not to use it. Now I'm starting to see the light on that and realize that the convenience of it is rather nice. Alright, so let me take a shorter exposure with some binning, bin the pixels together, and see if we're still getting frost. We're now up to 8 degrees Celsius. It's not a whole lot hotter, but maybe it's just enough to cook things off. No, not really. Looks like it's the same story. Well, that's less than ideal. So, to bring everyone up to date who's just joining, we're testing a new camera, a replacement camera, that arrived in the mail for me a couple days ago. And it's identical to my previous deep space camera, but basically we're going to be trying to take pictures of the Orion Nebula here. Well, okay, it is... no, maybe not. Seems like the temperature's plateauing off at about 9 degrees Celsius now. Boy, oh boy, it was a mistake to turn on the active cooling tonight. So this camera came with a desiccant that had probably been sitting there for years. It looked quite old. I pulled it out, this silica gel pack that's supposed to dehumidify the CCD chamber. So it doesn't have any dehumidification going on in the CCD chamber right now. And well, that could be a problem. But it seems like at least this camera is not giving me the kind of noise problems that I was having with the old camera, where I was getting these Venetian blind effects coming through the image. If you look at my previous video, you'll see that all over the images I took of the Solar Dynamics Observatory. It's because that camera is dying. This camera is identical, but it looks like it's been used a lot less. They were both used cameras. The previous one, though, judging by the state of the foam in the camera case, it looked like it got a lot more use than this one did. However, this one was shipped to me rather improperly, to be honest. Basically, there was no packaging. They just slapped a UPS label on the Pelican case that normally stores the camera and shipped it out the door, like that. Try reactivating the autoguider. Just get that going. I did a very quick and dirty polar align tonight. Very, very quick and dirty. So, not going to be the most accurate alignment, but hopefully it's enough to get some basic imaging going on. You know, it sure seems like... okay, that's good. If I didn't know better, it sure seems like, at least with the autoguider, it's working a lot better now. So I think the warmer temperature is helping. Okay. But on the main imager, it still looks like the stars are being blurred by whatever humidity might have formed on the, oops. God, star lost brightness. Yeah, no kidding. The CCD soft seems to have a software glitch. If you stop taking pictures and the autoguider is still running, the autoguider won't stop taking pictures, but the shutter will close, and it'll start chasing its own tail. Normally I'd be using the adaptive optics unit, but I haven't gone to that length tonight because it just doesn't make sense. I just want to test the basic functionality of the camera and make sure everything's working okay, because it was shipped in nothing but a Pelican case, and so it was bouncing around inside that Pelican case probably as it's being thrown around in shipping. It's just not proper. And when I opened up the Pelican case, lo and behold, the handle was disconnected. There's two handles on the back of the camera. One of them was just flopping around, disconnected, and the screw that normally holds that handle to the back of the camera case was bouncing around inside the camera case, potentially damaging one of the circuit boards. So that wasn't good, but I couldn't be sure if it was damaged or not, so that's why I'm firing it up tonight to see if it's really working or not. Alright, we're just going to go for it here, another 5-minute exposure. And I'll let it take an auto dark this time. The stars may still be blurred by some condensation, but whatever, we'll deal with it. YouTube is acting like I might be having an issue with streaming quality. Let's see what OBS says. OBS thinks it's working fine. Though the video bitrate is gyrating a bit. So I'm not sure what the deal is there. If someone in the chat could let me know, does the stream seem to be working okay? Are we getting buffering or any audio issues? I don't know. Just let me know if we're getting issues. I'm going to take a look at some stuff. I'll be back in a few minutes, but in the meantime you can watch the autoguider go to work here and hopefully bring in a clear image of the Orion Nebula. Alright, so sounds like from the chat things are good. The audio is just a little bit low. So I've cranked up the volume here. Hopefully that helps. It seems like warming the camera up has helped. I think the fogging, the frost on the stars, whatever it is mostly gone. It's not 100% gone, but it's mostly gone. On the really the brightest stars, you could still see these little spikes coming off of it from some residual icing, possibly. But yeah, this is a very bright image of the Orion Nebula. So that's good. The focus could probably use a little tweaking. I can fix that. But first I'm going to let the auto dark frame come in so that we can see what it looks like with all these hot pixels. That's par for the course. There's just no avoiding hot pixels. Let's see, I'm going to rearrange the CCD soft toolbar here a little bit. Go away, go away, go away. Come on. There we go. Give myself some more space to work with here. No pun intended. For you guys, I'm going to shrink the camera control window a little bit so we can better emphasize the beautiful pictures this camera's taking instead. That helps a bit. It'd be nice if I could stretch the window a bit more. I don't think it's going to let me do that. Let me see something here. Is there a way I can directly share the window? Let's see, window capture, histogram, cam control, dark. No, that's just the whole shebang. Okay, never mind. It was a thought. I was trying to see if I could share just the image window itself, not the whole CCD soft window. But there's no way to do that, so be it. Just 1 minute left till the automatic dark frame finishes up. That'll take out the hot pixels and leave us with a nice image of the nebula by itself. You can already see how that's cleaned up the image quite nicely. all that nasty noise is gone, and we're left with a beautiful picture of the nebula. It's quite nice. But I'm inclined to believe that the focus could maybe use a little tuning up. Unfortunately, if I stop it and restart it after redoing the focus, that'll mean I have to redo the auto dark as well. But I think it's worth it. Let's get this image as sharp as it can possibly be. Alright, stop guiding. Okay. Now, I'm going to turn off autosave for a second. Take this down to 1 second exposures, do 2x2 binning, and throw the focus mask on. Okay. So, we now have a number of stars to choose from to focus on. I'm going to choose this one. So first I'm just going to monitor and get a reading of what the focus is like. It's pretty close. It's not far off, but I think I can make it a little better. You might be wondering what I can tell from these images. So, there's some spikes coming off the star there. Well, I just shook it, but those spikes should be perfectly symmetrical when it's perfectly in focus. Okay, could use a little more adjustment. And I'm not even really sure if I'm adjusting it the right way or the wrong way. Let's see. Oh yeah, that was the right way. It looks in focus now. See, that's much better. You get a lot more symmetrical spikes there. Okay. I'm going to take the focus mask off. Alright. Let's get back to taking pretty pictures. Go back to 1x1 binning. Crank it up to 5-minute exposures. Let's resume the auto guider. I'm going to wait for the auto guide star to come down into the center of the view. I haven't calibrated it for backlash compensation. basically the gears are going to have a little bit of slack in them. You have to tell it how long it needs to drive it to undo the slack. I haven't put in that value yet. Takes a little trial and error to figure it out, actually. Okay. The auto guider is settled. So these images are not going to be perfect since I'm not properly giving it the backlash compensation it needs, but it's fine. I just want to see what this camera can do when properly focused. Oh dear, I guess there's a flat earth discussion in the chat. Yeah. Thing about flat earth is polar aligned telescopes don't work at non-polar locations on a flat earth. Unless you're standing in the middle of the flat earth disk, your polar aligned telescope is supposed to be aligned parallel to the axis of rotation. It's not going to work for tracking the stars. And that's exactly how the telescope's aligned tonight, polar aligned. So, sorry to say, the Earth is not flat. Oh, thank you, Rent-A-Cow. Yeah. It's, to me, it's really cool to be able to do that, to be able to take pictures of a satellite with the telescope, from that deduce the orbit, and from that deduce what the satellite will actually see a month in advance. I mean, it's just fantastic to see how elegant and predictable orbital mechanics really are, and to be able to generate predictions of celestial events like that. So my previous video was all about predicting the start of the next SDO eclipse season, where the Solar Dynamics Observatory will be passing into Earth's shadow once a day for a period of a few weeks, and that will start next month. So to predict when it would start, I tracked the satellite with this telescope and determined the orbit, and then put that into my software for predicting what the satellite would see. So you can see that on my previous video, and I've got a channel set up that generates daily annotations and generates predictions of future eclipses seen from SDO. Normally it runs on the official orbit published by the government, but to me it's a fun project to do that myself, to generate the orbit myself using nothing but my own data. Just 1 minute till the next image comes in. It's weird that YouTube still acts like there's something wrong with the stream health, but OBS acts like everything's fine. That's odd. I guess I won't be too worried about it as long as you guys aren't noticing anything problematic. Alright. Yeah, I can tell. You guys may not be able to notice the difference, but I can, and it was bugging me. The stars are sharper now. I can definitely tell a difference there, even before the dark frame comes in. And the other good news is it looks like the condensation has all finally burned off. Thank goodness. I am not turning the active cooling on this camera on again until I receive those desiccant packs and I can dehumidify this camera properly, because that was just absurd. If I were going to be doing a long imaging session tonight, this would be a problem, because the dark frame, what it's taking right now is it's closing its own shutter and taking a picture of basically its own noise profile, all these hot pixels, these colorful pixels that are just defective and reading on falsely. So the CCD is broken up into red, green, and blue pixels, and that's why these pixels that are on are so colorful, is because a single pixel is defective. It might be a red pixel, a green pixel, a blue pixel, and that's why you see all these colors. So right now it's profiling that by closing the shutter and taking a picture that's of the same length of time, and it assumes that it's taken at the same temperature. It is at the moment. It's maintaining a pretty steady temperature around 8.5 to 9 degrees Celsius. But if you were going to be imaging throughout the course of the night, if you weren't actively controlling the temperature, it will change, and that changes the noise profile, and so that would be a problem. This is an issue I ran into years ago, back when I was trying to do this kind of deep space photography using a standard SLR camera. You could take dark frames at the end of the night, but it wouldn't necessarily reflect the temperature you had at the beginning of the night, and so I found it impossible to properly calibrate against the noise of the camera. I'm not going to be streaming too late into the night. I do have to work tomorrow, but at least this will show me that the camera is working okay. It was real sketchy after I opened it up and saw this handle flopping around. But it looks like, miraculously, the camera survived the trip. So that's good news. It means I'm back in business. The price was definitely right on this camera. It was just a fraction of the price of the original retail on this camera. I paid less for it than most would pay for a standard SLR camera these days. And yeah, it's old technology by today's standards. It's only a 1600 by 1200 image. But hey, I can't argue with the results. It works well. It's a good match with the telescope. It just works well. And it's compatible with the adaptive optics system I have. So that'll be the next step for another night, to hook it up to the adaptive optics unit and resume doing things that way. So only 30 seconds left or so on that dark frame. I need to monitor the guide star when it comes out of the dark frame, because it's been sitting there 5 minutes unguided, and the polar alignment I've done tonight is very, very rough. I pretty much, you could almost say I eyeballed it. I didn't just eyeball it, but might as well have. I didn't spend much time tuning in the alignment tonight. So the star's probably drifted a bit. Hopefully it's still in the autoguider's field of view. Waiting on shutter. Yes, good. Alright, it's still got the guide star. Now this first picture will probably be a little goofed up by the fact that it just scooted that that guide star all the way from the top right corner back to the center. So that's going to streak this next picture, but that's fine. The picture after that should be back to normal. And this is a nice looking picture of the Orion Nebula. It's really not too shabby. It isn't quite maxing out the camera in terms of the camera's maximum pixel values. This camera records 16-bit images. My monitor and most people's monitors are only able to display 8-bit images. So you're not even seeing the full dynamic range of this image, really. Just the brightest parts of it. There's lots of detail buried in the dimmer parts of the image as well that are brought out by post-processing. But yeah, on the whole, I'd say that's a pretty darn clean image. I really can't argue with that. That's really nice and clear. Alright. Good stuff. Well, it seems like this is going to be a good camera. This is the Orion Nebula, for those of you just joining us. The guide star is the little black box on the left that's got one little star in it. That is a guide star that the camera is taking pictures of every second. So it's monitoring the position of that star and commanding the telescope's motors to move to keep it centered. Meanwhile, the main imaging chip, there's actually two imaging chips in this camera. One is the autoguider, the other is the main imaging chip. The main imaging chip is taking a 5-minute long exposure. Alright, well, you guys enjoy that. I'm going to turn up the music for a bit and go grab a bite to eat. But before I go, I do want to point out that this stream is brought to you in part by my sponsor, Orion Telescopes. Right now you can get 15% off on select telescope accessories from Orion Telescopes using the link I have in the video description. It should take you to the sale page. I'm just checking that right now. Yep. Looks like they changed... No, they haven't changed the offer. It's still 15% off on a variety of accessories, including mounts and viewfinders, reticle eyepieces, all kinds of good stuff. So if you're looking for some accessories for your telescope right now, check out the link in the video description. I'll post it in the chat right here. And thank you for your support. Oh yes, the total lunar eclipse is coming up on the 20th. I really do hope that we have clear weather here. If we do, I will live stream at least part of it. We'll see how it goes. That'll be probably with a different camera, probably with the SLR, a wider field of view camera that's better suited for getting the whole moon. But the downside there is it runs off battery power, so it probably won't be able to do the whole eclipse, but I'll try to live stream some of it at least. So, yeah, hopefully that'll be good if the weather permits. Oh yeah, and this next image coming in right now is probably going to be streaky, I'm guessing. Let's see how it does. Yeah, you can see the stars look like they're sort of triple stars, the brighter ones especially. You can really see how they've been duplicated, and that's because it had to move the autoguide star back into position after it came out of the dark frame. This next picture, though, should come in nice and clear. Alright, so I'm back, and let's take a look at how things are going with the imaging. I'm going to see if I can stack the images that have been collected so far. And see what the output looks like. Oh yeah, I think this is going to look good. So it's stacking the first 7 frames now. I eliminated that frame that had the bad tracking. And also one that seemed to have some weird light interference. I don't know what was going on there. Okay, now let me process this in PixInsight. Highly recommend PixInsight for astronomical image processing. to try doing some tone mapping to it. It's really tough because the Orion Nebula has this really strong, this really wide dynamic range. The brightest parts of the nebula are really, really bright, almost maxing out the camera, and the dimmest parts are very, very dim. So you have to tone map it to get the best possible image. I don't have anything particularly great at tone mapping. Normally I use Iris. Iris does a pretty good job for a free program. Okay. So let me pull that into PixInsight now. Okay. Now, I think the newer commercial versions of PixInsight can do some good tone mapping, but I don't have that. I have the free version, which legally I'm not supposed to be able to distribute this version. They stopped distributing it, and they basically put a block on that and said, not allowed to hand this out anymore. If anyone wants our software, you gotta pay for it. Though it used to be they had a free version. Which is what I still have. Okay, let's see. Let's do that. Yeah, so with auto-guiding like this, it's not as perfect as it would be if I had the adaptive optics unit on there. The stars have this kind of a funny shape to them, the brighter ones do in particular. But it's, on the whole, it's not too bad. Rotate this 180 degrees like that. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, let me save this. Okay, now let me share the window if I can. So, window capture. There we go.